Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Barry from Moss Pawn and Gun, and today we've got another one of our comparison videos for you. I know many of you have really been liking this concept, and it's a great way for people to learn about very similar firearm designs. And today we're going to be comparing and contrasting the Remington 870 pump shotgun to the Mossberg 500 pump shotgun. Both the shotguns are extremely popular, very prevalent in terms of aftermarket parts. Both companies are highly reputable. Both companies, see their share of police and military service, police contracts, military contracts. So they definitely both have their, advantages and disadvantages. And we're going to discuss a few of those for you today. I know this is a very hot topic. A lot of people are always torn between the 870 and the 500, and for good reason. Both designs have their merits and flaws, and we're going to discuss a few of those for you today. Barry?
Well, the 870 has been around for a long time. This gun was the standard of law enforcement for many years. In fact, it still is, because a lot of departments don't have the budget to change over to a 500 or a 590, so they just stick with what they've got.
Correct.
This gun has a steel receiver. This gun to me feels more solid than a Mossberg. Mossberg has an alloy receiver, which makes it great to carry, but this gun is a lot smoother when you're shooting it. It doesn't recoil as hard, and it feels like it feels more solid of a design.
I think if I were worried about cracking skulls, I would want the 870, because it is a very solid gun. And that's one thing about the 870 that, in my mind, is a definite plus. I own the 870 and the 500. I can say that both guns are great. As a nightstand gun or bedside gun or something like that, well, obviously I'm not going to have a 500 on my nightstand, but by the bedside, I prefer the Mossberg 500 for just about anything around the house, general plinking, whereby I could see the 870 as being an ideal duty gun, something that's going to see a lot of rounds, it's going to get shot a lot. Ergonomics wise, I do prefer the 870 as well, just because you do have the simple push button safety right there where your trigger finger is, just like most shooters are used to anyway. The actual operating bar stop right here is actually, in my opinion, a much more convenient place. I mean, you would have to change the position of your firing hand just a little bit to get to it if need to. But I do like the parkerized finish on the 870s. A lot of the options in terms of aftermarket parts are awesome for the 870. Same thing on the 500. On this particular rig, we've got the new ATI Halo side saddle set with a Burris fast fire, and this is a 6-shot gun or 5-shot gun. And again, 500's an excellent gun. Alloy receiver, so you get a little bit less weight. This particular one has a heat shield, which is pretty common for many of the 500s that are out there. Good recoil pad. Not as beefy of a gun. This gun just doesn't feel like, if you went to cracking things with it, hitting stuff with it, or bashing indoors.
That's why the 590 Mossberg military gun is much heavier than this gun. It's got a heavy barrel. Now on this gun, this trigger group is made of plastic. Now, what holds this in, there's two little tongues that go in these slots, and if you hit this from the side or hit it or drop it, it can break those off, and this whole assembly will fall out. On the 870, you have to drive these two pins out, and the trigger group on this gun is made of alloy. So it's actually much stronger. If you're going to get a gun that's going to be abused or thrown around or whatever, you want this.
But then the 590, though, is still not a bad choice for somebody wanting something beefed up, because they have metal trigger groups, don't they?
Right, and the 590 is also the gun that beat this one out for the military trials. The 590 is the standard issue of the United States Armed Forces.
It is, and we had a 590A1 on our truck overseas, and not that we ever really used it for anything. I don't think my truck had one, but some of the trucks had 590s, and I can see where they would be a really handy object for shooting out windows or shooting locks off of doors and stuff like that. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the location of the safety on the 500. I prefer the 870 for sure. But both guns have their merits, and I guess it's like comparing apples to oranges, because both guns are excellent. I mean, is one better than the other? Many would argue that. It depends. I own both, so I can say that I do prefer the 870. As a rugged, ass-kicking gun, the 870 is definitely my choice. I love the Magpul furniture for the 870. That stuff is awesome.
Nice.
definitely.
But this 870, you notice you have to push the lifter down to load it. The Mossberg is wide open. You just drop the shell and it's a lot easier to load. Let's say you're in the dark or you're having to speed load it. This is a lot quicker. But both of them are excellent guns. I've shot them and owned them over the years, and I've seen a couple of these trigger mechanisms break over the years, but that's because the gun was abused or dropped and landed on the side and broke the little pieces off that hold it in there.
Sometimes they just break from use.
Sometimes they just break.
I've seen them come in just from honest use and see them snapped. And Brownells does sell an aftermarket trigger set that you can get. I mean, you have to change all the components out yourself, but the actual housing for the 500, they do sell an all-metal one that you can get, and it's rugged. It's basically a 590A1 trigger set. You can get them aftermarket for around $80 if they're available. Sometimes Brownells is sold out of them, actually quite often. Both the shotguns are great. I can tell you too, just as a little bonus, a buddy of mine has the, Chad, he has the Browning BPS.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that is an awesome shotgun.
Awesome gun.
I love a bottom eject shotgun. And that's one area that both of these shotguns lack. They eject from the side, which is fine. But a bottom eject shotgun, in my opinion, gives you a lot more of a tactical advantage just because the shells get kicked downward. So let's say that you're in, I don't know, an urban situation and you're clearing buildings or whatever. And let's say you go to shuck out a spent shell and it flies out. Well, that could give your position away.
Right.
A shell being stroked downward out of the action, bottom eject style, that's going to be a lot less likely to give away your position.
Hit right at your feet.
Hit right at your feet.
Yep.
So, in my opinion, I think a bottom eject shotgun is awesome. And Chad owns the Browning BPS Tactical, which is a wonderful gun. You see that in use a lot in our videos.
Now, if you want to get a gun like Chad's, forget it. They only made 2,000 of them. Sold them right away. That's the only BPS that ever left the factory high cap.
Yep.
Other than the hunting models don't hold a lot of shells.
No.
But that gun is slick. The reason we had trouble selling those guns, because you can't get a lot of gimmicks for it. You can't get this force, you can't get pistol grips, you can't get all the gadgets.
But it's a good gun if you just want a solid
If you want a
shotgun.
solid home blaster, that's an excellent gun he's got.
I agree.
And it will also shoot mini shells. Now, let me add too, on this Remington here, both these guns will fire 2 3/4 and 3-inch shells. Now, the way you can tell if you have a magnum receiver, if the last digit or letter in your serial number is an M, that is a magnum receiver. Now, you see a lot of guys, they buy a 3-inch magnum barrel and it'll fit right in this receiver, but when you go to eject your shells, they won't come out because the loading port ain't big enough.
Right.
So, you got to keep that in mind, but both of these will shoot the 3-inch magnum and the 2 3/4-inch shell.
Which is really more than enough.
More than enough, yes. More than enough.
For a combat payload, it's fine.
Well, this is a reduced recoil law enforcement double-aught buck, and we're going to be doing a video on this pretty soon too. This is something special here. This is something you need to pay attention to this.
We'll do a test on it in the future.
We sure will.
We've got a lot of things in the pipeline in that regard.
But I would like to. Here's a gun that I have never really cared for, but a guy came in the other day and said some deputies in a neighboring county were using these. Now this is a Benelli. This is a Supernova. This gun will shoot 3-inch, 2 3/4, 3.5-inch, and he said it will run these mini shells. Now his gun, he says he has a 2-shot extension, and it will hold 14 of this in the tube. So we're going to test that out too.
I tell you what, those little mini slugs are awesome.
They are.
Now I'd like to shoot some of those in ballistics gel. That's probably a video that we'll have coming up soon, is testing out the Aguila mini shot shells and slugs in ballistics gel, just to see what kind of power they have, because it really is a cool little round. And I wish Aguila would really pick up and produce more of those.
Right.
I know that they've been in limited production lately, but that's a great idea.
Well, these come in mini slugs. They come in 7.5 bird shot. Now this is a mixture buckshot here. This is 7 number 4 buck and 4 number 1 buck.
That's buck and ball, basically, sort of.
Yeah,
like
it's big buck and little buck.
I got you. Cool.
But this gun will shoot any 12-gauge shell you find. This shell right here is a Winchester number 4 buck. This is the same load as a 10-gauge. There's 54 buckshot in here.
Whew.
Now, you go to firing something like that out of this lightweight gun. The guy that owned the gun that fires the mini shells, he said he's fired 3-inch, but he ain't firing no 3.5.
Boy, I tell you,
It would
kick
be
the
all.
dog shit out of you. You get the crap kicked out
But
of
see,
you.
this gun doesn't have a lot of accessories either. You can't put a side saddle on it. You can't put a folding stock on it. All this is made in one piece. And it's a very slick action on
It's
it.
lightweight.
It's a slick action on it, but the thing about it is, they rattle like hell. That's why I never liked them. They rattle.
Yeah.
You know, you take a Mossberg, it moves a little bit, but it's not noisy. But anyway, the Mossberg and the Remington will fire these two. The Benelli will fire all four. So no matter
So
where
will the BPS. It won't fire the 3.5, but it'll fire all from below.
these. There's very few guns that will function with this because on the Mossberg they drop out the bottom when you try to cycle them, and on the Remington you can get them to work sometime. Now Chad's BPS feeds these like a dream.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the guy that come in here said the Benelli does the same thing. But anyway, that's a comparison of the guns, and I'm kind of taking a liking to something like this. I mean, you can fire any shell you find.
And that's definitely a major factor for a lot of us. I mean, especially if you're buying a shotgun for survival situations, anything you find with 12 on it, you want to be able to use it if it comes to it. So
Well,
in closing, between the 500 and the 870, I think my money goes towards the 870. I own both. I do like the 870 a lot. And that would be my choice.
Well, if I had the money to choke out for it, I'd just find a 590. I prefer the 590 Mossberg probably over these two. But I'm taking a liking to this gun. Like I said, I never liked it, but Benelli doesn't put their name on junk.
I agree, and I do like that gun. I like the ghost ring sights on that gun. It's very nice.
Got nice ghost rings on it.
Sure enough.
Well, anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this evening. And we appreciate y'all subscribing and all. And I tell you, I never thought it would get this big. I mean, we are growing by leaps and bounds now, and it's all because of you.
Yep, well, we definitely appreciate y'all's support, and more importantly as well, we also appreciate your business. I know a lot of the people that watch our videos are our customers. We appreciate your continued business. We do have plenty of 500s, plenty of 870s in stock if anybody ever wants to come by and check them out. If you're a subscriber and you live out of state and you have questions, feel free to call me and Barry here at the shop at the number below, and we'll be happy to answer any questions we can, with the amount of time we have allotted. So,
well, I hope y'all can understand that we can't answer every call, and we can't spend a lot of time on the phone because we are employed by the Mosses, and of course the web page is bringing people in, and it's going to get bigger. Business is going to get better, and I hope in the future that we've got our wall of liberty bulging again. We've got plenty of guns, plenty of ammunition. We've got rifle magazines. I mean, as many as you want.
Yep.
We got BX-25 mags for the Ruger now. We got the BX-25 ×2. We really need to do another gun tour.
we'll probably have one coming up in about another month and a half or so.
Yeah.
So you guys stay tuned for that.
See how things roll, and we appreciate y'all, and y'all have a good evening.
Have a good one, people. Thanks. All right, once loads start to get to the upper end of the spectrum in terms of what you're going to see with pressure signs, one of the biggest pressure signs you're going to see is a sticky bolt. All right, this bolt
Stuck pretty good.
It's stuck pretty good. Yep.
Let's get some.